Have you ever thought that it is possible to decipher other people's thoughts using just 3 simple strategies? Let's explore these strategies and understand how to put them into practice. These skills are essential to overcome any challenge, because by mastering them, it is much easier to interpret and understand what is going on in the minds of others. Today, I will show you how to master this skill. To illustrate, I will tell a story that demonstrates how we can decipher the thoughts of others. It is set in an old village where 2 brothers lived. The oldest was blind and spent most of his time at home, while the youngest worked in agriculture. However, the 2 had a problem. Wild animals often destroyed their plantation, causing great damage. Concerned about the situation, the younger brother had an idea. Why not ask my blind brother for help? He could stand in the field, hear the sounds of the animals, and scare them away. Determined, he built a small hut in the middle of the field and asked his blind brother to move there. "Brother, if you hear any strange noise, shout and scare the animals. That will protect our harvest." The blind brother accepted the challenge and began to watch the field. For several days, every time he heard the sound of the animals, he screamed and managed to scare them away. Once a deer ran across the field quickly, knocking down part of the fence before fleeing. Soon after, the king appeared chasing the deer. The monarch approached his blind brother and asked, "Did you see a deer passing through here?" The blind brother replied calmly, "Your Majesty, I am blind, I can see nothing. But I can assure you that the creature who passed through here is not worth your hunt. You are wasting your effort." Puzzled, the king asked, "How can you be so sure? How do you know it's not worth it?" The blind brother, with conviction, replied, "Majesty, the animal that fled is a pregnant doe. I have never heard of a king who would persecute a pregnant female, so I think his quest is futile." Surprised by the safety of his blind brother, the king doubted his words. After all, how could anyone without vision know that? Determined to clarify the truth, the king ordered his commander, "Capture this animal. I must confirm if she is really pregnant." After some time, the commander returned with confirmation that the doe was indeed expecting cubs. The king, amazed, could not understand how the blind brother knew this. Curious and even more impressed, the monarch decided to ask directly, "How can you know something that you have not seen? I need you to reveal your secret." The blind brother replied, "Ask whatever you want, Your Majesty, and I will answer with complete sincerity." The king then continued, "You seem to be someone with great wisdom and insight, so I need to ask you an important question. Is my wife cheating on me?" Even with the doubt about the betrayal, the king insisted, "You must answer my question or face the death penalty." Faced with the threat, the blind brother pondered, "Majesty, I will give you the answer you seek, but first I need you to meet a request of mine." Curious, the king asked what he wished, and the blind brother made an unexpected proposal. "I need to be alone with his wife." Initially, the king was displeased with the idea, but after reflection he agreed and ordered the commander to leave the blind brother and the queen alone in a room. At this moment, the blind brother expressed his intention to touch the queen, which provoked a strong reaction from her. Despite the confusion, the blind brother managed to escape and soon appeared before the king. The blind brother then reported, "Your Majesty, your wife is not faithful to you." Enraged, the king drew his sword and went to confront the queen, warning that if she lied, she would be executed. Questioned about his loyalty, the queen replied, "Your Majesty, you can take my life, but this will not confirm the veracity of your brother's words." Intrigued, the king returned to his blind brother and asked, "How did you discover my wife's betrayal?" The blind brother replied calmly, "It was very simple. When I mentioned my desire to touch her, her reaction was so violent that she attacked me instead of just refusing. She ended up touching me in the process. Now, Your Majesty, think carefully. How can the fidelity of a woman who reacts in this way be true? Impressed by the insight of the blind brother, the king exclaimed, "Your wisdom is indeed admirable. Now, answer one more question correctly, and you will be released." And then the king asked, "Tell me, am I really my father's son or another man's?" The blind brother calmly replied, "Majesty, dissolve your anxiety. I can reveal your true lineage, but I need your promise that you will not react with fury." The king agreed, and the blind brother revealed, "You are your father's son, but you were influenced by a greedy merchant." Surprised by the answer, the king immediately went to his mother and asked, "Mother, please tell me the truth. Am I really the son of my father or another man? If you don't tell me, I'll give up my existence right here." With a sigh, the king's mother confessed, "Son, you are, yes, descended from your father, but also fell under the influence of a greedy merchant." Relieved with the truth, the king returned to his blind brother and asked, "How did you know that the greedy merchant was influencing me?" The blind brother replied, "Majesty, I have answered many of your questions correctly, but so far I have not received any reward for my wisdom. Based on this, I concluded that his inclination is for greed." The king laughed and said, "Ask whatever you want, and it will be given to you. But explain to me, how do you distinguish right from wrong? How can you give answers so accurate?" The blind brother replied, "My blindness is congenital. If I had vision, I could easily understand people's thoughts, for the mind has its own language, reflected in the movements of the body. By looking at the eyes, lips, and gestures, you can understand what is going on in someone's mind. But being blind, I see through actions, analyzing behavior, to understand what is going on in a person's mind." Curious, the king asked, "So does this mean that I can also understand the thoughts of others?" To which the blind brother replied, "No doubt, Your Majesty. You can also discern the thoughts of others. But first you must work on yourself. This work involves calming the mind and focusing on the present. Today I'm going to show you 3 simple and accessible methods. Before we continue, please enjoy the video and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. Now let's get to wisdom. First, the eyes and body expressions are messengers of emotions. In moments of sadness, the look reflects this melancholy. The sincere laughter, which illuminates the eyes and raises the cheeks, reveals genuine happiness and goodwill. The eyes play a key role. When they shine naturally, you can trust that joy is true. Also, observe the area between the eyebrows. Wrinkles formed in this region indicate tension, often expressing confusion, deep thinking, or effort to understand something complex. The second technique, Your Majesty, is to pay attention to body language. The body and hands can transmit much without having to say a word. They create a secret language that reveals desires and feelings through subtle gestures. For example, repeatedly tapping your fingers or making rhythmic sounds with your hands may indicate boredom or a desire to end a conversation. I remember once talking to someone who wanted to sell me something. His fingers were rapidly tapping on the table, revealing his anxiety or impatience to finish that conversation. On the other hand, a person who maintains a relaxed posture, immobile, demonstrates genuine attention and interest in continuing the dialogue. It reminds me of how my teacher used to lean slightly, showing that he was immersed in the discussion, even remaining silent. Also, people who touch their face constantly during a conversation may be revealing their thoughts. These gestures, often unconscious, indicate anxiety. Hand movements can also tell a lot, revealing emotions and intentions in a subtle way. For example, if someone quickly touches their nose during a conversation, it may suggest that they are not being totally honest or hiding something. Watching how people react to our words and understanding what is going on in their minds can help us better interpret their thoughts. But before you move on, It is extremely important to focus your attention on the present so that you can observe all these behaviors and analyze them properly. If you are stuck in worries about the future or distracted, it will be impossible to understand someone else's body language and consequently understand what is going on in your mind. Now, Your Majesty, let's go to the third technique. But before, remember, focusing your mind on the here and now is essential to understand the thoughts of others, especially when they are also present and attentive. Keeping our minds in the present moment is what allows us to capture someone's thoughts. The third technique that the blind brother shared with the king is to observe the voice. The voice can reveal a lot about what a person is thinking or feeling. For example, someone speaking in an excited and fast way is probably enthusiastic or anxious. On the other hand, those who speak slowly and relaxed tend to be calm and controlled. In addition, the tone of voice is also an important factor. A high and shrill tone can express anger or frustration, while a soft and calm voice usually suggests peace and tranquility. I remember once talking to someone who spoke with a cheerful voice, but at the same time sounded superficial, raising doubts about the sincerity of that joy. The voice can express a range of emotions, from sighs and tears to sincere laughter. By paying attention to how words are articulated and tone is used, you will be able to easily understand a person's thoughts and feelings. These are the three techniques, Your Majesty, that I shared today. Observe a person's eyes, body, and voice. Focus on these three aspects, and you will have no difficulty in uncovering what is going on in your minds. However, remember that to do this effectively, you must first focus your own mind on the present. Only then will you be able to interpret and perceive what is happening with the other, enriching your own experience. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope these tips are valuable to you. Consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear this information, because wisdom must be spread to flourish. Leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. See you next time.